Welcome to Legends, a series that delves into the lore within Horizon Forbidden West. With the return of the Zeniths, their colony ship, the Odyssey, carried them from Sirius back to Earth. On board is an alpha build of the Apollo Archive, the sum total of human knowledge meant to educate the reborn populace of the 31st century. Thanks to the actions of Ted Faro, these humans never received this education, leading to the tribal world we see in Horizon's present. But now, with the archive returned, it seems inevitable that this knowledge will eventually spread across the globe if Nemesis is defeated. Knowledge and history that will forever change the perspective of those who learn from it. But the real question is, who will be willing to accept and benefit from such earth-shattering revelations? Will it bring the world closer together, or push tribes and their ideologies even further apart? Let's begin with the Nora. Residing in present-day Colorado, no other tribe shuns technology more than Allmother's Chosen. With their tribal identity and spirituality defined by their disdain for the metal world, it seems evident that they would view any revelation brought on by the reintroduction of Apollo as taboo and forbidden. Ironically, due to their proximity to the cradle Aletheia 9, they could potentially accelerate their education across the tribe faster than any of their contemporaries, if they were willing. Along with the systems governed by Aletheia, a Lyceum learning center specifically designed to use Apollo to educate a large number of individuals lies waiting for anyone with access to the archive. However, gaining access to the heart of All-Mother where the center resides almost assuredly would cause any devout Nora great distress. This could potentially cause a rift between the tribe, much like what occurred between those who first emerged from Aletheia 9 with those departing under the guidance of Ahriman becoming the Carja. If the knowledge held within the archive manages to spread across the land, I find it hard to believe that the Nora would be able to endure without adapting. Either through assimilation or conquest, their extreme views would place them well behind any that would welcome the advantages brought on by the return of Apollo, potentially seeing the Nora as we know them completely disappear within several generations. To the north of the sacred land in present-day Wyoming, the Banuk have made their home. When it comes to the potential revelations of Apollo, I feel they would eventually come to appreciate such knowledge, but could be late to fully adopting it. Unlike the Nora, the Banuk don't have any inherent mistrust of what came before, but rather a documented lack of interest. Banuk as a whole believe the Old Ones grew complacent, believing there was no challenge they could not overcome, but in this hubris, ultimately came their demise. Assuming the Old Ones were never strong enough to inhabit their lands, the sentiment is that there are few lessons that can be learned from them. Overcoming this initial hesitation could prove the largest obstacle to the tribe finding value within the archive. On the other hand, the Banuk at heart are a meritocracy. Once hunters discovered information that could prove useful to their survival and improve their skills, I'd imagine they would take to this new information rather quickly. How shamans would interpret Apollo, I'm uncertain. They could see this as wisdom direct from the spirit of the machines and treat it as gospel, but new information concerning the machines and their creation could demystify their spiritual beliefs. Once again, I feel a rift between adopters and dissenters is likely. With the Banuk less centralized in their leadership, I feel this would be a less contentious division, with Warwick slowly drifting apart into different sub-tribes. In the deserts of present-day Eagle Canyon, Utah, sits the City of the Sun, and the Carja, who call it home. Depending on the views of the reigning Sun King, the future of the Carja could move in very different directions. Under a more progressive leader like Avad, I could see him using his influence as Speaker of the Sun to move the tribe towards further education and adoption of the archive when it's accessible. However, he has made it known that his goal is to eventually relinquish the crown when he feels his younger brother Itamen is ready for such responsibility. As of now, I would like to believe that he would be the same kind of leader as Avad, but having spent much of his young life under the influence of Carja fundamentalism, it is hard to say. There's nothing within the Sun faith directly opposing ancient knowledge, as tribal scholars have routinely set out to uncover mysteries of the past, but a monarch who puts their divine providence before the well-being of his people could set the tribe back considerably. Though Ahriman himself used ancient knowledge to guide his people to Holy Meridian, this has become mythologized after many generations, his lineage now viewed as divine conduits of the sun's will, and their word as law. If Itamen came to view greater knowledge of the old world as a threat to his absolute authority, he could purposefully undermine education efforts. Though this is possible, I find it more likely that following the tutelage of his older brother, Itamen will guide the Carja into a new golden age of greater wealth, trade, and knowledge than ever before. North of the Sundom, the Oseram inhabit the claim. In my opinion, no other tribe is in a better position culturally or technologically to benefit from the reintroduction of Apollo. Tinkering and delving are bedrocks of Oseram culture, with many prolific inventors hailing from its various clans. Additionally, with no firm centralized power structure beyond clan eldermen or religious stigma of the metal world to contend with, there are no major factors that would hold the flow of education and innovation for the Oseram. Fiercely independent and individualistic, I can see the Oseram flocking to wherever the archive can be accessed like a veritable gold rush, all the secrets of the ancient past laid bare, ready to be seized and built upon. With excavation and manufacturing infrastructure already in place, technology and crafting could rise as their primary exports, with Oseram clans competing against one another to supply cutting-edge innovation to their tribal neighbors, bringing unparalleled wealth and influence to the Oseram like they have never known before. If they can resist more violent infighting among their ranks, Apollo could eventually make the tribe the most powerful in the known world. Headed west, we find the Utaru, an agriculturally based society that holds the values of peace and harmony at their heart. But make no mistake, their leadership is highly political and has already found themselves at odds between tradition and adaptation, a division that stoked corruption, conspiracy, and even murder. This makes predicting how they might adapt to the revelations of Apollo murky at best. On one hand, with Regional Control Center 9 so close, they could take advantage of the archive rather quickly. In this, Repair Bay Tau is also within reach, potentially being able to harness the power of the machines faster than their neighbors to the east and west. Technological leaps forward could strengthen agricultural practices, as well as gain access to the RCC's seed vault, giving them the ability to produce flora that hasn't been seen since the 21st century. These possibilities could make them a focal point of trade with regions that are more desolate, like the Desert Clanlands, Hidden Ember, and the Daunt. But Utaru leadership has been hesitant to adapt in the face of major change. Conflicting information concerning their land gods or the Western Grand Array where Plainsong sits could promote hesitation within the chorus. If tradition wins out, they may still be able to keep peaceful relations with those around them, but will find themselves far behind those who successfully embrace Apollo from the onset. Further west are the Tenakth clanlands, united under Chief Hekarro, finally rid of Regala's rebellion. With their reverence for the Ten and hunger to advance their prowess in battle, I find it likely that chaplains from various clans would be eager to learn from the Apollo archive. Being that their interpreted history of the Ten isn't far from the true history of Joint Task Force 10, this new knowledge shouldn't contradict with the core sentiments of their society. As long as either Nemesis or Hephaestus remain at large, they will use rediscovered strategy and military tactics to continue their fight against the machines. What I find to be a more volatile situation is what will become of the Tenakth if Earth is saved, and Gaia once again takes control of the machine ecosystem. Can a united Tenakth survive without a common robotic enemy? Unfortunately, I feel the eventual death of Hekarro would bring about a power vacuum and reignite the clan wars that defined the tribe for much of their history. With new knowledge and technology, a conflict like this could destabilize the entirety of the Forbidden West. Tribes like the Utaru could find themselves subjugated if unable to negotiate peaceful terms, and could even spill into the Daunt, potentially pulling the Carja and Oseram into a drawn-out war. There is a chance the tribe might stay united in peace, but with such divisions just below the surface, Hekarro's leadership may be the only force holding the tribe together. Finally, from across the great ocean is the Quen Empire. Unlike most of the tribes we've discussed thus far, where Apollo could bring newfound growth and prosperity, I feel the emergence of the Apollo Archive would most likely be the catalyst to the Empire's fall. Despite the Quen's relentless search for ancient knowledge to expand their understanding of the legacy, bringing their civilization to new heights, much of their power comes from controlling what information is acceptable for the masses. Stemming from the Board of Overseers, new information gathered by diviners is deemed either permissible or heretical. If discoveries don't align with the established narrative that the Quen have built their society upon, it's rare that it will ever reach the general population. The Apollo Archive could present a massive threat to this system and the Quen ruling class. Their pantheon of 21st century elites, ancestral right over the pharaoh focus, and all other systemic indoctrination could crumble if the full breadth of the legacy was ever revealed. Despite the efforts of the Overseer and Compliance Boards, factions already exist within Quen society that aim to undermine the establishment in this way. Those like Diviner Enki wished to discover more focuses once they had crossed the Great Ocean in hopes of decentralizing information in their homeland. If individuals within this counterculture are able to spread information from Apollo, revolution is the likely outcome. Whether the Empire can remain cohesive after something like this, or those reconquered re-establish their former sovereignty, is hard to say without knowing more about Quen society and their homeland. Though they may try, I think for those as informed as they are concerning the 21st century, it would be next to impossible for the Imperials to keep the knowledge of Apollo contained for long. Knowledge is always a double-edged sword. Will those who accept it wield it for the betterment of humanity like Dr. Sobek and her alphas always hoped? Or are those in the 31st century doomed to repeat the mistakes of their ancestors? Only one thing is certain. The knowledge of the Apollo Archive is closer now than ever, and there is so much within left to explore. And that brings our journey to an end. If you'd like to see more content like this, likes and shares are always appreciated, and if you're hungry for more Horizon lore, consider subscribing and checking out the rest of our lore library. Also take a look at our channel memberships to see some of our exclusive content on the lore of Horizon. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep questing.